Hello guys, it's Revolution. In this video, we're going to do a 2020 edition to which is the stronger fusion between Potara fusion, which in Vegito and Goku's case yields Vegetto, and Metamoran fusion, the finger dance fusion, which yields Gogeta. Now, as you most likely know, this debate has been raging on for more than 2 decades, and the opinion on both of these characters has changed multiple times due to new information arriving. Even my opinion over the years has changed multiple times, not necessarily in favour of one character or another, but in terms of what the actual increase in power is for that particular type of fusion. But we'll be going over it in this video in depth, at least with as much information as we can to come to the best answer. I'm not going to say there's an assertable answer yet, but I do feel we are closer than ever to knowing how close these fusions are to one another, thanks to the appearance of Vegetto Blue in Dragon Ball Super as well as Gogeta Blue in Dragon Ball Super. So now I'm sure you remember coming up to the release of the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie and the announcement of Gogeta featuring in that movie, there was an article in the Jump magazine that was translated by Herms, who stated that these fusions are equally matched ultimate trump cards. He even points out that unless you're a master of origami, then this basically means Vegetto equals Gogeta in a reference to their power levels, basically. Now, Herms is a legendary Dragon Ball translator. He's been in this fandom for over a decade. We know he's a qualified translator, and most people don't challenge him, but he was challenged on this. And then a lot of people came out the woodwork and started saying, well, the translator I know that lives next door to my mum told me this, that all it really means is that they are just equally matched in terms of being trump cards. Of course, Kenzaro, another respected translator, came out and said this. Well, not said, but he translated it as Potara gives fusion to Vegetto, whilst fusion gives birth to Gogeta. Both are equally good and strongest trump cards. And then he says, not in a power level sense, it's referring to them being the best trump cards. Now, obviously, I'm not a translator. I can't translate any Japanese. If you've heard my Japanese pronunciations, you'll know it's absolute horse crap. I can only speak a few Japanese words, which I basically learned from watching Naruto and Dragon Ball in English subs. Dozu, Ningen, that's pretty much my limit. I do know more words than that, to be brutally honest. But moving on, I actually disagree with Kenzaro, what he's put there in English, how he's presented that in English. I actually think that statement taken in English is referring to power levels. It is in a power level sense. Now, I don't mean any disrespect to Kenzaro, got massive respect for his translations, and I am extremely grateful for his translations. Keep up the good work, Ken. But it states both are equally good and strongest trump cards. Well, if it's not talking in a power level sense, then both of them aren't the strongest trump cards. That would mean that one is stronger than the other, so it takes out the equation that they are the strongest and they are equally good. Well, they wouldn't be equally good if one was stronger than the other. To me, that just says that they're equal. Now, whether you want to accept this or not, I'm not a translator. Maybe there is some more to it than meets the eye or more than face value concerning the actual translation of the original text. Like I said, I'm not a translator, so I can only comment on the translations presented to me. When it comes to translations, these translators simply have complete authority over me because, like I said, my Japanese is shocking. And sure, you could look at the equally good part as meaning they are both good enough to take down the opponent as a trump card, but when it really comes to the strongest usually refers to the strongest. Only one of them can be the strongest if they are not equal. But the way I read those two translations from both Herms and Kenzaro, two very respected translators in our community, it just seems like it is talking in a power level sense. So I do agree with Herms on this one. Anyway, this is a Jump article, and I know Jump articles don't necessarily convince everybody. Even I don't hold Jump at the highest regard. It's no Daizenshu or Super Exciting Guide or Toriyama interview in terms of source strength. But like I've said before, Jump articles should be taken seriously as long as they don't contradict a higher source strength, especially the main source material. But obviously there's more to this than just these Jump articles, so we'll go into that as well, at least go into everything we know as of 2020. Like I said, there's still not a definitive answer, especially if you want to disregard those two translations for that same Jump article. But Herms also did release a thread concerning fusion, and obviously one of the big things about Potara, I'm sure everybody remembers, in the Super Exciting Guides, it was stated that Potara fusion was Goku times Vegeta, basically multiplying their two powers together, which would be an enormous power boost. It's basically a broken power-up. Now, this is something I believed for years, and definitely would have put Potara ahead of Metamoran fusion. However, Herms did reveal that there is a translation in the very same guide that states Metamoran fusion is a multiplication of the two fusees. So it pretty much says the same thing about the same two fusions, but ultimately just says it in a different way. Now, the Goku times Vegeta was always a vague concept and seemed unnecessarily overpowered in terms of its plot importance. So a lot of people disregarded it, but ultimately the Metamoran fusion can mean the same thing. At least how I take multiplying the two people's power together means basically, in this case, as it uses an image of Trunks and Goten, that it is Trunks times Goten, very much like Vegeta times Goku equals Vegetto. Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comment section. Maybe you perceive that differently to me, but that's how I perceive it. Then there's more sources that we've had throughout the years that Herms included in this thread. And in terms of balance, some say Gogeta is stronger, some say Vegetto is stronger. In a Jump article from 1995, there is an article that states that the only way Vegeta could win against Gogeta is if it lasted longer, and that Gogeta can draw his power out to the max, whereas Vegetto can't. So that implies that Gogeta is stronger. In the Daizenshu 7, there's a passage that states that Potara is stronger than Metamoran fusion. Then of course there's Vados' statements concerning Potara fusion in Dragon Ball Super the anime, which states it gets tens of times stronger, which we also know from the Dragon Ball GT Perfect files that Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta was dozens of times stronger than a singular Super Saiyan 4. Now, to me, if you know anything about Dragon Ball GT power scaling, that seems like is really undercutting Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Basically, how I see it in terms of evidential weight from licensed source material, it's finely balanced. Of course, many people will point out that the Elder Kai stated that Potara fusion was stronger in the Dragon Ball Z manga, but that was not the case. In terms of comparison that the Elder Kai gave in the manga, all the Elder Kai really stated was, in response to Goku asking how long they all stayed combined, Elder Kai stated that the Potara fusion doesn't have such a weakness. So in terms of the comparison, all he was really saying was that Metamoran fusion diffuses and Potara fusion doesn't. However, as we know now, Potara fusion does split back into two if the fusion is used by two mortals. It's only a permanent fusion for a Supreme Kai. However, guys, what we have now is a direct comparison that we can make between Vegetto and Gogeta in Dragon Ball Super. In Dragon Ball Super, the Future Trunks arc, we saw Vegetto Blue fight against Merge Zamasu. In the manga, it was clear that base Vegetto was stronger than Merge Zamasu. From distance, he blew off Merge Zamasu's arm, whilst in base, and Merge Zamasu admitted that it could take him a long time to defeat base Vegetto. At that point, he didn't know he could transform further, in which Vegetto did. He transformed into Vegetto Blue because he needed to get the job done quickly and pummel an immortal being like Merge Zamasu. Obviously, the anime portrayed it a little differently, but in the manga, Shin stated that Vegetto Blue using a final Kamehameha surpassed Beerus. What we also know is that Gogeta Blue against Broly surpassed Broly comfortably, who was stated by Goku to probably be stronger than Beerus. In terms of levels of probability, probably stronger than Beerus means he is likely stronger than Beerus. We also now know that another Viz article came out concerning the manga of Dragon Ball Super, stating that Vegetto Blue was indeed a rival to Beerus in terms of power. Obviously, since that particular arc, there has been the Tournament of Power and the event in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. So let's say a hypothetical Vegetto Blue was in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, you would have expected Vegetto Blue to have surpassed Beerus in terms of power, even potentially comfortably, as we know Gogeta Blue was. So you could argue it's almost like the blue level fusions are growing linearly, no matter which fusion it is, whether it's Potara fusion or Metamoran fusion. What we do know is that both base fusions are at least comparable to Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Blue Vegeta at that point of time. And that's at a low ball. By blasting Merge Zamasu's arm off in the manga, base Vegetto achieved far more than Blue Goku did before they fused, and even completed Super Saiyan Blue Goku only really matched that feat by using the Hakai technique. And then of course in the Broly movie, we know that base Gogeta was able to dodge and parry all of Super Saiyan Broly's attacks, whereas even God Goku got pummeled by an Akari Broly. And Goku and Vegeta Blue were both struggling heavily against Super Saiyan Broly, admitting there's nothing they can do without fusing. And of course, Super Saiyan Gogeta initially took the advantage against Super Saiyan Broly. Basically, base Gogeta is stronger than Super Saiyan Blue Goku. In fact, Gogeta even states to Frieza that his power is basically the two fusees' power added together and then magnified, which, by the way, is how you can interpret Vados' statements from episode 114 concerning Potara fusion, that the fusion is more than the sum of their parts and then multiplied by tens of times. As mentioned before on this channel, you can go back to all fusions within Dragon Ball and look at the fusions. They are all stronger than the two fusees' power at their maximum, with their maximum transformations added together in base alone. This can be said of Gotenks, Kefla, Vegito, Gogeta, and then they can stack their transformations on top. So to me, it all is pointing like they are pretty even in terms of raw power. Now there may be a few variables, maybe one increases the base power more over the fusee's full power, a bit more than the other. That remains to be answered, and that's why I've said there is not a definitive answer, but it is more heavily suggested than ever that these two fusees have the same amount of power. Of course, there are other variables as well. Fusion obviously requires a dance to do, and not many villains are going to allow you to do that fusion dance. And of course, Potara is a quick and easy fusion, providing you have the Potara earrings, which you need a Supreme Kai, a god of creation, to be in attendance and willing to give you those earrings to use. The time limits of both fusions is still up in the air as well. We know that Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks in the manga only lasted approximately 5 to 6 minutes, so you can imagine Super Saiyan Blue lasts a hell of a lot less time than even that. Obviously, in the anime of Dragon Ball Super, it felt like Blue Vegetto was literally there for 2 minutes. Whereas in the Broly movie, it felt like Gogeta Blue lasted for quite a bit of time. But I wouldn't put too much attention into the run times of how long these fusions lasted in terms of airtime in the actual animations themselves. There are a few other official but weaker sources concerning fusion. In the old Legendario, it does state that Vegetto is the ultimate warrior. It doesn't really make a comparison between that and Metamoran fusion, especially Gogeta. The Dragon Ball Super wafer stickers have both Gogeta and Vegetto Blue using the final Kamehameha at 9800. Does that final Kamehameha make up the growth gap between the future Trunks arc and the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie? And then of course there is a gaming quote from Xenoverse which outright states Potara is stronger than Metamoran fusion, but it is a gaming quote. Like I said, when you lay all these official sources on the table, they are finely balanced. Some say Gogeta, some say Vegetto, some say both the same, but the biggest indicator for me is when you compare a future Trunks of Vegetto Blue as a product of his time compared to a Gogeta Blue from the Broly movie as a product of his time. It just points to them being at very similar levels of power. If there is any difference, it's minimal. So for now, as per 2020, as per this date, in terms of all the information we have, I'm happy to say that these two fusions are relative to each other. Were they always relative to each other? Who knows? Maybe something's been retconned since bringing Gogeta into the mainstream canonicity, but I'm sure there'll be more information coming out in the future that may point to otherwise, but when that does come out, obviously I'll cover it. Maybe in 2021, I'll do a 2021 edition. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Make your opinion heard. Which fusion is stronger, Gogeta or Vegetto? And which is your favourite fusion? I want to know that too. Drop your thoughts down in the comment section. I look forward to reading them. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. If you love Dragon Ball videos and discussing Dragon Ball, this is the channel for you. Keep smashing that like button. Keep lending your energy. Until next time, Ad Astra.